Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager at PHECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain.
Hi, everybody. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network, where we educate, enlighten, and entertain. The views of the guests may not represent those of the host or the station. Folks, you're going to want to listen to this podcast. I am so excited and honored to have my guests with me. Women, do you have trouble setting boundaries? Do you always put everyone else first and yourself last? Do you let people bully you into things you don't want to do or insult you? It's time to set boundaries, and my guest can help you do that. I'm going to tell you about my guest, who is so phenomenal. Michelle Ellman is the author of The Joy of Being Selfish, Why You Need Boundaries and How to Set Them, which is what we're going to talk about today. But Michelle is a 5-board accredited life coach and is most known for her campaign, Scarred Not Scared, which I highly recommend you watch on YouTube. Michelle is an author, a speaker. She was on Tedx Talk, which I highly recommend you all watch. Have you hated your body enough today? Wow, you need to watch it. It's phenomenal. Michelle has a podcast, a life coaching podcast called In All Honesty, which is on iTunes and Spotify. Her debut book was Am I Ugly, which was in 2018. Michelle was named the Sun's 50 most inspirational women in the UK. And when you hear Michelle, you will know why. Michelle has been on TV, radio. She is all over the place. And I want to welcome Michelle to Chatting with Betsy, and I'm so happy that you're here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me on, and what an introduction. I have to live up to that now.
Oh, I'm sure you will. Michelle, I loved your book, and I really wished it was written 40 years ago, if not more, from when I was growing up. And I have to ask you what I ask everyone. I know why you wrote the book, but can you tell the audience, why did you write the book? How did that come to being?
So I was what you would call a pushover, or if I was being nicer about myself, a people pleaser. And it was definitely a series of moments in my life where it was realizations that the people around me weren't treating me nicely, to say the least. The first moment was with a boyfriend, and I had missed his call for the first time ever, apparently. And when I called him back, thinking it was urgent because he'd left a million messages, Facebook messages, WhatsApp messages, and missed calls, thinking something bad must be happening that you call me so much, he picked up the phone and just calmly went, "Oh, you're usually at my beck and call." And it was this like stomach-turning feeling of not only does he think I'm at his beck and call, but that he had the nerve to say it to my face. And then I came home, and it was about a week later, and I got into an argument with a housemate, and the housemate said, "Do you know how much we have to tolerate living with you?" And it was just these two series of events that made me go, why am I surrounding myself with people who literally make me feel so unlovable and make it seem like they're doing a favor to be around me? And so I started really examining the people I had in my life, and that's where this boundaries journey started with me, because ultimately I believe boundaries are how you teach the world to treat you. It's the line between who you are and who the world wants you to be. And when you start having boundaries, when you start saying no, when you start standing up for yourself, you quickly learn who's there in your life because you're a useful person to have around, you're a reliable person to have around, and the people who are in your life who actually love you.
So true. I learned a lot reading your book, and I started setting more boundaries myself as a woman who is going to be 64 in December. We weren't taught about boundaries, Michelle. And I think this book should be read from, I'm going to say, preteen on, because it's never too late to change. It's never too late to set boundaries. And you probably found this, Michelle. I know I found this. When you set boundaries, people don't like it, and then those people can go bye-bye.
Yes, exactly. You're suddenly a lot harder. The word that people use for women is you're suddenly a difficult woman. But when I hear the word difficult, now all I hear is difficult to take advantage of. And that's all it is. Difficult to manipulate, difficult to take advantage of, and therefore it's difficult for them. You're an inconvenience for them because they can't get you to do whatever they want. But as much as we're from different generations, I equally wasn't taught boundaries. And I don't know whether it's because I grew up in Hong Kong, so in China, where this message of being ladylike was probably the most common message I got growing up. And a ladylike woman doesn't say no, doesn't set boundaries, doesn't stand up for themselves. A ladylike woman is very acquiescent, always says yes, and goes along with whatever plans anyone else has. And so even despite our difference in generations, I think it's generally a thing that women are told, because the greatest compliment you can give a woman is that she's selfless. But what does the word selfless actually mean? It's to forget oneself. And I just refuse to forget myself anymore. It's my life. And if it's not my job to put myself first, then whose job is it? Who's going to look after me the same way I can look after myself if I don't put myself first?
Exactly. And I think as women, especially if you're a mom, you do put everyone else first. I know I did. And I put myself last, and then you become resentful. And you become resentful towards your companion, your mate, your partner, and even sometimes your children, because you're putting yourself last. And, you know, we're taught sometimes in, for lack of a better word, religious training, that you put yourself last.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing all the time. And I think women really do need to start standing up for themselves and saying, you know what, I'm not going to be treated like this anymore.
Well, it's also the fact that if you don't want to set boundaries for yourself, learn to set boundaries for your children. Because if you put everyone else first as a mother, then that's what you're going to teach your children to do as well. And so it becomes this like cycle of people putting everyone else first. And it's almost like that cliched story of like a mother who is emptying the dishwasher and why does no one help me? But she's never asked for help. And it's that day at that epiphany of finally, like, it all boils up, all that resentment suddenly comes out in a burst of anger. And then it's like, well, no one asked you to. No one asked you to do all those things. But because as women, we want to take on these roles, we want to look after the people in our lives, and we also have the feeling of, if I don't do it, then who else will? And so if I leave the dishwasher, will the dishes get done, or will they just keep piling up? So I might as well do it. But then it's that feeling of resentment we actually need to listen to more. And so it's about having those hard conversations, speaking to your family members about pulling their equal weight, because it should never have always landed on the mother as the only caregiver in the household, because that's just not the case.
That is so true. I remember my mom acting like a raving maniac when she would be cleaning, because my sister and I know I'm ashamed now, but we didn't help my mom. But she didn't ask for us to help. And when I did do something, of course, it was never good enough. I love the quote in the beginning of your well, in the front page almost of your book, which says, for every woman who has been treated badly and wondered whether you deserved it, you don't. I love that.
Yeah.
Is that your own? That's your own quote?
That's my own quote, and it's truly because those are the women I write in mind, because that's the kind of thing I wondered when I was treated that badly. When I used to have awful ex-boyfriends, when I used to have friends who, frankly, shouldn't have been classed as friends because they were more frenemies, I wondered, well, is it me? Am I the reason I'm being treated badly? But you're never the reason you're being treated badly. But there are reasons why you've accepted that behavior. There are reasons why you've thought that's all you deserved, why these people you've considered your loved ones when actually you deserve so much better. But if you aren't taught that you deserve better and you don't believe that you deserve better, then when it shows up on your doorstep, you're going to think it's too good to be true.
That's true. And do you find, Michelle, because I have found this in my own life, if you were emotionally abused, if you were told you were ugly, then I think you accept other people's behaviors because you think you're not good enough. So then you don't set boundaries because you want to keep someone because you have such low self-esteem that you think you deserve to be treated this way. Did you find that in your coaching?
Oh, absolutely. And also, if you've grown up in a very critical household, either because one of your caregivers or teachers in your life were really critical, then you might have also been sent the message that criticism is love. And I strongly stand in the fact that criticism is not love. When you criticize a child, specifically a child, they do not think that they have done wrong. They will never think you are wrong because you are the authority figure. You are the adult. You are the person who knows better. And especially when it comes to parents, parents can never be wrong in the eyes of a child. Therefore, what they believe is they are inherently wrong. Not that they did something wrong, but that them as a human is wrong. So especially when you criticize someone's appearance, when you call them ugly, when you call them fat, they believe that they inherently are wrong as a person. And so that's why I just think we need to stop this culture of shame and criticism because it doesn't benefit anyone. And then, as you said, it feeds into how you stand up for yourself, your boundaries. It feeds into your self-esteem. And I don't think that there are any positive things that come out of being shamed.
I agree. I agree totally. I had to do a lot of inner work myself because of how I was brought up, what I was told, and at the age, and it's never too late to change, folks. It's never too late to work on your inner self, trust me. At 60 years old, I stepped into my power, and I started to set boundaries, but after reading Michelle's book, I even set them even more firmly. And, go ahead.
It's actually almost similar to what you just said about when you used to help around the house, it would never be good enough. That kind of mentality then becomes a broader mindset. So your mum, I'm sure, was doing the best she can. All parents are, and I never, ever think it's a solution to blame anyone. But it is a reason as to why it will feed into other areas of your life. So if you are attempting to help and it's never good enough, or and that will be your mum's own thing. That will be her own issue around not letting go of control and all of those things. You take that in as a completely different message as a child, though, and therefore you take that message into your adulthood, and you don't realize that, oh, no, you can do things that are good enough, that, like, helping someone is a good thing. So you keep helping in order to reach that level of good enough. It's never going to be good enough because the approval you're seeking is not from the other people in your life, not from your future family, but actually from your past family.
Yes, that's very true. When you're a young girl and you're told that you're ugly, you're fat, or you grow up believing that, and then you create a story around it. And then you figure, okay, I'm not good enough, so I can't set boundaries because this is how I should be treated. And Your book is just phenomenal. Michelle, can you give an example of someone setting a boundary if someone is insulting them?
Yeah, so if someone speaks negatively about my body in front of me, whether it's walking into a conversation and someone goes, oh, you put on a bit of weight, I will say, can you not speak about my body like that? And if they continue to do it and say, well, have you thought about going on a diet? I will simply go, I've already asked you once to stop talking about my body. I'm not going to say it again. And if you do it one more time, I'm going to be leaving this conversation. And if they do it one more time, I do leave the conversation. What usually happens is they won't do it straight away, and then 2 minutes later, they'll do it. And I don't forget, so I walk away. And I'll say, just come find me when you're ready to have a conversation about anything other than my body.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I was overweight at one time, and I just loved how people said, oh, Betsy, you put on weight. Yeah, well, thanks for reminding me, like I don't know.
But also, I don't own a mirror, and like that says anything about me. I use the word fat. I'm fat. And I don't think that means anything about my health. You don't know anything about my health. Anyone who knows my story knows I've gone through 15 surgeries. So the fact that you, from just my outside appearance, feels the need to judge me or thinks you can judge my health when I can guarantee no one goes through 15 surgeries and takes their health for granted. Like, I'm so deeply defensive of my body because I'm like, you have no clue what my body has been through. My body has survived more things than most people have and probably shouldn't have survived it. So I'm going to defend it to the death, and you can't judge it from an outside appearance because you've met me for 2 seconds, and just because you can notice something with your eyes, whether it's weight gain, weight loss, a new pimple on my nose, or acne, doesn't mean you have to comment on it.
That's right. That's right. I think we should start teaching our children that, beauty is from the inside, and not to judge the outside, and to stop being so judgmental and cruel to each other. I mean, I really feel sorry for young girls and young women today because of the pressure to, look a certain way. I know I had it growing up. And why can't we just be ourselves and love ourselves and accept ourselves for who we are? Well, flaws and all.
People get an escape from their own problems when they can turn the mirror on someone else for a second. And I think that's what is at the root of a lot of these body shaming comments, is that it gives them a peace from their own body shame that they feel about their own body for even 2 seconds, then they're going to do it.
That's true. Michelle, what would you like the reader to take away from your book? I mean, I know what I took away from your book, and I'm not giving this book away. I need it as a guide. This book is going to stay with me. What would you like for the reader to take away?
I would like the reader to know that they deserve to set boundaries. I think that's where it all starts, is that you have to believe you deserve to, because otherwise you won't do anything else in the book. You can read it and you'll put the book down and you'll never look at it again if you don't believe you deserve better. And that when someone treats you badly, rather than questioning yourself, you question their behavior and why they felt entitled to behave that way.
Oh, I love that. That is good. That is a good nugget. And your book is full of precious nuggets of wisdom. And I really highly recommend people to purchase this book. Where can they purchase the book, Michelle?
At any good bookstores, Barnes & Noble. You can buy it online, or Waterstones, Amazon. Waterstones is a UK store. I'm trying to think of American brands, but I'm not on top of the American bookstores at the moment. But Barnes & Noble definitely.
Oh, that's okay. It. Oh, yes. We have Barnes & Noble here, and Amazon. And where can people connect with you, Michelle?
So I'm at Scarred Not Scared on most things: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. My website is michelleellman.com, and you can find my podcast at In All Honesty on Spotify or iTunes.
And I highly recommend everyone, especially your female, to listen to Michelle? And you're also a life coach. So do you do coaching virtual, like if people in the States want it?
I am not taking any new clients at the moment, but you can reach out to me on any of the other platforms. And within the podcast, I do take voice notes that I can answer. And that is the one way people can get some advice from me if they need it in the moment.
Excellent. And what advice can you give young girls out there that just starting to come into themselves, or a young teenager as far as setting boundaries? Because as a teenager, you're under peer pressure. It's a little hard. Do you have any advice for teenagers?
Yeah, I think in adolescence, the main thing is you want to conform, you want to fit in, you don't want to stand above the rest of the crowd. Whereas when you become an adult, or as you're becoming an adult, standing out is not a bad thing anymore. Being different isn't a bad thing anymore. And so you just have to ride this phase of being different. And being different will mean the person who sets boundaries, because everyone else in your friendship group likely won't be setting those boundaries. So if you have this fear that comes up inside you saying, well, if I set boundaries, if I say no, everyone's going to hate me, everyone's going to dislike me, then that's not actually necessarily true, because what I find is the popular girl in school tends to be the one who doesn't care what people think. The popular one is the one who goes their own way and doesn't care if people follow them. And what's almost ironic about that is that's the person that people do follow, because if you're all following each other, you're all copying each other, then you all become sheep in the pack. So there has to be the one person who isn't going to follow the rest, and that person actually becomes the leader of the group, the most popular one. So I'm not saying setting boundaries is going to make you popular, but what I am going to say is that if you set boundaries, you will naturally find the people who are the right people for you, rather than being forced into a group because you've changed every aspect of yourself to fit in.
Wow, that is phenomenal, and I believe that. I used to teach in a preschool. I was a teacher's aide in a preschool, and I would tell the kids, when you get older, think of Miss Betsy telling you this: do not follow what the crowd is doing. If what they're doing is wrong, you be a leader, and you do what is right, because anyone could follow someone. It takes a stronger person to stand up and say, this isn't right, and be a leader. And I think when we set boundaries, it's a form of leadership in a way. We're setting an example. I will not tolerate being treated this way. I want to be treated with respect. And if you talk to me in that tone, I will not tolerate it. We will not have a friendship.
It's absolutely setting an example of how you want to be treated, and not tolerating anything below that.
Yes. Oh, I just love you, Michelle. I just love what you have to say. I want to thank you so much for coming on Chatting with Betsy. I know you are busy. Thank you. And thank you for writing your book.
Thank you.
Folks, you're welcome. You're welcome. The name of the book, The Joy of Being Selfish, by Michelle Ellman. Why you need boundaries and how to set them. I would run to my computer and order it, because this book, you're going to want it, and you're going to want to keep it and refer to it when someone starts treating you like crap. You don't have to put up with that nonsense. You don't. And you need to set boundaries. And yes, when you set boundaries, people won't like it because you're standing up for yourself. All those people, let them go bye-bye, because you don't need them. And that's my soapbox. You can, I just love doing what I do, because it's my microphone. It's like my megahorn to the world. And really, that's how passionate I am about setting boundaries now. I mean, it took me 60 years, but like I said, better late than never. And I'm even more in tune with setting the boundaries since reading your book, Michelle. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Folks, if you missed any of this podcast, You can catch it on your favorite podcast outlet. I'm on Spotify, Spreaker, CastBox, just to name some. And please read the blog because it will have information about my guest today, Michelle Ellman. And I want to thank her publicist, Lisa Warren, for arranging this interview. And I want to thank Jeannie White, who produces the show. She's station manager at Passionate World Talk Radio Network and writes the blog. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, CEO, Passionate World Talk Radio Network, that gives people a chance to be heard. And something so important as setting boundaries and feeling good for yourself, we need to hear it. We need to hear more about it. So, folks, please remember, you deserve to be treated with respect. Nobody has to put up with being disrespected. I know I've set the boundaries. I will not be treated with disrespect anymore. And people will treat you as you allow them to treat you. And I just have to thank you all for listening. Please share this podcast to help other people. Maybe other people in your life have trouble with setting boundaries and being treated with respect. Share this podcast with them. Tell them about Michelle's podcast. And yes, I do promote other people's podcasts because you know what? We all need to help and support each other. And we all have different needs at different times in our lives. So I want to thank everyone for listening. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio Network. Until we chat again, everyone, please be kind. And I'm going to add something else. Stand up for yourself. You deserve to be treated with respect. Bye-bye now.
Are you looking for an internet talk radio station for your podcast? Look no further. At the helm of Passionate World Talk Radio are two women that want to provide a spot for you and your podcast to be heard. There are many other places for your podcast, but PWTR has the audience. You will not be disappointed. Our station has been on the internet for the past 16 years. Call us for more information. 484-364-1032 or text Jeannie White, station manager at PHECONNECTSHOW@gmail.com for podcast show details. Thank you for listening to Passionate World Talk Radio. You can listen to this program all over again by going over to https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. You can also hear it on Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Alexa, AMFM247.com every Tuesday evening between 8 and 9 p.m. YouTube, Facebook, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, and all the other podcast directories one can find on the internet.